This course is mainly designed for individuals who are going through or thinking of making a mid-career switch, or for those who wish to pick up a new job skill. However, for fresh graduates who are still looking around and are undecided on their career path, or for retirees who are still active and wish to acquire new knowledge, you are very much welcome. As you can see from this slide, there are vast and varied career opportunities such as consumer insights executives, data analysts, and market research professionals. In the next 2 slides, we will talk about the skills that you'll acquire from this course that will prepare you for the career opportunities mentioned here. Just to highlight, this course will equip you with knowledge in qualitative and quantitative research methods and data visualization skills. You will be involved in the entire process of carrying out real-world industry projects, of which such skills are applied to the jobs we mentioned earlier. In terms of software, besides the widely used SPSS, we will expose you to new softwares for data visualization such as Tableau and Power BI, commonly used by the industry today. On top of these, you'll also learn about survey interviewing skills and management of market research projects. There are 3 modules in this course, namely the Advanced Certificate in Market Research, Practitioner Certificate in Survey Interviewing, and Market Research with Technology. At the end of the program, you will be awarded 4 certificates, 3 modular certificates for the modules you have seen in the previous slide, and 1 final certificate in SkillsFuture Career Transition Program for market research professionals. This is provided that you meet the minimum 75% attendance and pass the assessments. Here is the breakdown of the course fee. As you can see, an individual above 40 years only pays $500.38 using his SkillsFuture credit. This means that you only need to pay 1 price but receive 4 certificates, and these fees are heavily subsidized by SkillsFuture and completely payable using your SkillsFuture credits. In essence, you do not need to pay a single cent out of your own pocket. So what are you waiting for? Do scan this QR code and register for the course. When you scan this QR code, you will be brought into a web page containing 3 links to sign up for the 3 modules. You would need to register 3 separate times, as this means you will be getting 3 certificates. Next, we are very honored to have with us today our distinguished guest speakers, namely Mr. Edward Lim, the President of Market Research Society of Singapore, and Mr. Zach Bana, the co-founder and director of Beacon Consulting. Both of our distinguished speakers are established leaders in the market research industry. Their contribution to the industry has not only shaped the field of market research, but also set new benchmarks for excellence. Without further ado, let us welcome Mr. Edward Lim to enlighten us on the overview of the market research industry.
So, Edward, may I invite you to speak?
Thank you, Xiaolei, and thank you for the very kind introduction. My name is Edward Lim, and I'm currently the president of the Market Research Society of Singapore. I've been in the research industry for almost 25 years, going on to 30 years, and it has been actually quite a journey and quite a ride, and it's actually one of the most, I think, in my opinion, one of the most interesting and fulfilling jobs that you can actually do. So I think that, I hope that by joining this course, you will be able to join our industry. Over the years, because I've been in the industry for a very long time and I've seen many changes. And when I first joined the industry, there wasn't a course like this whereby everything was nicely structured and you get someone to actually teach you the basics of what you need to know. When I first joined the industry, everything had to be learned the hard way through experience. So I think that this is a really good initiative by RP to actually help and nurture people to join the industry. In the many years of working in the industry, and since that you are just beginning your journey, I thought that it might be useful and interesting to share 2 things and to help you better get started in the industry. The first thing is that this course which you are undertaking is very heavily focused on analytics, things which happen in the background and groom you for a good future as a data analyst, moving on to become a consultant, and maybe one day even becoming director of research. So that this course puts you on that path. But in order to get onto that path, my recommendation to anybody who's just joining the industry is not to just stay in the office all the time and run SPSS and look at data, but that it is very important to actually spend some time out in the field as a field worker. Because data is the substance of what you are analyzing. And if you have no experience out in the field, you have no idea how the data is being made, then it's actually very, very difficult to understand what you are analyzing. If you go out into the field, spend some time as a researcher, as an interviewer, talking to people, understanding the way in which data is collected out in the field, then later on, when it comes to doing your analysis and speaking with a client who might have many, many questions with regards to why certain things are the way they are, you'll be in a much better position to provide insightful and thoughtful answers, which make your contribution greatly appreciated by the client. And also, another good thing about it is that in the industry, there is a perennial shortage of fieldwork interviewers. So if you're looking to actually get your foot into the industry, without experience, sometimes can be a bit difficult to actually immediately get a position as a consultant or an analyst. But if you are coming in as an interviewer and you spend some time at the agency, then very, very often later on, if you get to know the people in the agency because you work on one or two projects with them, and if a position opens up, you are then well positioned to move in to become a data analyst or consultant. And for my own hiring, when I'm actually looking for people, anybody who's actually had some fieldwork experience under their belt, I usually give added marks when I'm conducting the interview, because then it makes it so much easier when talking to them that they know some of the issues which will come up when they do data analysis. The second point is that there are many, many levels of data analysis that can be done. And very often, if you look into the academia side of it, you have very, very complex and difficult to understand models. And I think my advice is that don't be intimidated by this. Because if you did what I earlier said and you went out to do data collection and worked as an interviewer, and you understood how data is actually being created and collected, then you will understand why some of these models, which have a lot of very complex assumptions, sometimes find it actually can sometimes be a bit difficult to actually work. And that when you are doing analysis, some of the simple, basic types of analysis, and you shouldn't look down on them, because simple, basic types of analysis can give you great insight into what is happening, and those which you will be covering, I'm sure, in this course will actually serve you well for many, many years. So just thought I'd share these two thoughts as you go on into this course, and I hope that it will help you. And I think with that, I would like to pass my time over to Zach from Beacon, a colleague of mine and fellow practitioner in the industry, who will then share with you what some of the job opportunities that are available. Over to you, Zach.
Thanks, Edward. Really appreciate it. And Xiaolin, can I check with you? Do I have the sharing rights for the slides?
Yes, let me unshare.
Yeah, thank you.
And over to you. Hold on, give me a sec.
Sure.
Okay, Zach, thank you.
Okay. Can I just do a quick check? Is everyone able to see? Yeah, okay, perfect. All right, first and foremost, a very good evening to everyone, and thanks for joining this short session. What I intend to do is to glorify and glamorize this career. No, I'm just kidding. But it's really about something that I'm truly passionate about, similar to Edward. It is a journey that that I stumbled upon. It's a career that I stumbled upon. But I'll share with you a little bit about my journey. And I think it's important for me to set the context of why I'm sharing what I'm sharing. And then I'll share with you a little bit about Beacon so that at least for those of you who intend to sign up, or those of you who've already signed up, if you like to pursue a career, then what are the opportunities available for you as well? Okay. All right. So in terms of this short session, I was told that I'm given about 15 minutes. And I'll try to keep it within that time. But if I'm running a little bit late, Xiaoming, please let me know, and then I'll kind of just speed up my presentation.
Thank you.
Right.
Thanks.
So perhaps I can start off with a little bit about my journey into market research and how did I stumble upon it. I'm one of those fortunate or unfortunate people who were, the pilot batch of what we call N levels. Right. So many years ago, some leaders up there decided that, you know what, there are some people who are slower learners, and therefore, we need to come up, create a track especially for them, so that they can learn as they go along in their own pace and so on. And I happen to be part of that pilot batch of what we call normal stream students, right? So when I got my results in primary 6 and it says normal, okay, perfect. I was really happy because I'm normal, right? Except that what I didn't know is the express students were considered as normal, and the normal students, well, not so normal, right? So we had to go through 5 years before we hit our O levels, and the rest of them 4 years, you do your O levels. So what I'm showing you is essentially my N level results, which seem to be one that I have done relatively okay. Honestly speaking, it was one that I was very playful in my earlier years. I wasn't really focused on my studies, and as a result, I ended up in that stream. But hey, I did what I needed to do, and I finished my N levels based on that. But the issue is, at that point in time, the pathway was, well, if you are at N levels, the limited options available was that that you may potentially be able to go to O levels, but the chances are very slim. There's no way you can go to Express because normal students can't go to Express in the pilot year. And the pathway that was made out for me was that of being a plumber or a technician. That was the guaranteed pathway for a normal stream student. And I felt that, well, I could pursue that pathway. I felt that perhaps there could be other options. So I was faced with a certain dilemma of, what do I do? Where do I go? And how do I develop a career for myself? I was lost. But what I did is I signed up for what came my way. I pursued a degree, and the degree was in finance, right? So I got a degree in finance, and once I graduated with the degree, again, I was lost to say, yeah, I've got a degree in finance, but I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with my life. But what I took is one of those modules in an undergrad program, which was something called quantitative methods. Not a module that I did particularly well in, but I was able to kind of stumble upon that module and completed that. And the first job that I had was I pursued a career with an organization called Informatics. They're still around somewhere. And those days, they used to have a commercial school called Thames School of Commerce. So the first thing that I did is I started to become a lecturer in quantitative methods. Right? So I was a lecturer there for 3 years full time, and I enjoyed doing what I did, but I didn't quite see how that would be a career for the long run, because people who are into quantitative methods, the limited opportunities in terms of what you could do and how you could go about doing it. And at that point in time, the market was not as developed as it is today. So I said, you know what, let me just switch back. And I went back to my finance in industry, and I joined Citibank in risk management. And while I was in risk management, I was still dealing with numbers. There was a part of me that enjoyed quantitative methods. There was a part of me that enjoyed a different type of numbers, different type of analysis, and so on. But I said, you know what, I don't know if I want to continue to teach for the rest of my life. And there came another opportunity. And this organization was radically different from what I was doing. And this business of Singapore Airlines is, we are the people business. Right? So we basically provide service to customers, we passengers who fly from point A to point B. And my role was basically to look at everything that SQ was doing and to impart this knowledge to other organizations that we started to interact with. So we learned SQ's best practices, and we imparted it to hospitals, banks, insurance companies, and so on. Then you say, hey, Zach, where are you going with this? You started off a career in statistics, and ultimately you went with Singapore Airlines. I started to do a reflection of my life. I started to do a reflection of my life and the different things that I've actually taken on. I enjoyed numbers. I enjoyed dealing with people. Now the question is, which job gives me the opportunity to do both of the things that I love, right? Which is really to interact with people and to basically draw conclusions based on analysis. And that basically led me to this company called Beacon Consulting. So Beacon Consulting is a company that I formed 25 years ago. We just celebrated our anniversary, long time, you know. It's been a long journey since we started off as a two-man operation, you know, my business partner and I. But today we have offices in Singapore and Malaysia, and we have 3 lines of business. I'm not going to spend too much time on the first 2, but broadly speaking, the one on the left is the advisory team that does a lot of work in the area of strategy, processes. We do a lot of executive coaching. We do a lot of UI, UX consulting, a whole bunch of different stuff. Fun, but highly stressful stuff. The second team that we have is our L&D team. So these are a team of people who basically all they do from morning to evening is conduct training programs, you know, soft skills training, leadership, design thinking, innovation, creativity, and so on. 40 different training programs delivered by my trainers who are all full-time, delivered in different languages. And then the third team that I have is really the research and insights team. The research and insights team does a whole host of different types of research projects, from brand studies to perception studies to focus groups to mystery audits and so on. It's quite diverse in a sense. But you know, the interesting part is I was just minutes before, in fact, I was just about 20 minutes prior to going into this particular session, my son, who is currently interning with one of those big 4 law firms in Singapore as we speak, he was telling me, he said, Papa, this is what I'm currently doing. And he showed me this particular document that he was reading, which seemed to be a certain case of you know, I mean, it was just a theoretical case, not an actual case. He was just showing me a theoretical case that he's reading. And I replied to him just minutes ago to say that, you know what, I think my job is more fun than what you're doing. And in essence, it is. You know, I wake up in the morning 25 years later, I'm still as excited as I am day one. And I look forward to all the different types of research projects that we take on. I look forward to all the different clients that we work with. I look forward to all the different contract staff. I look forward to all the field workers. I look forward to engaging with so many different people, simply because it is an industry, it is a company, it is a business that gives people knowledge, gives people insights to be able to make informed decisions and help them to become better. That's what it is. You know, so that's what I love about this business, that you just, the knowledge base, the level of information that comes your way, you just get more and more intelligent by the day. That's the reality, okay? And of course, there's a quick snapshot of some of the clients that we've done work for in the last, 12, 18 months, right? So it's quite diverse. You can see that research, the beautiful part about research is that be it a healthcare provider, be it a private sector company, be it a public sector company, be it a hospitality, non-hospitality, you name it, everybody does research, right? And different forms of research. That's a beautiful part, right? So a whole ton of information I mean, the whole ton of insights that you can actually go ahead and develop. So what's a typical research journey? I mean, today is not you know, one of those lectures that we have, but essentially it's really about understanding the client's objectives, trying to appreciate where they're coming from, what is the insight that they want to garner, and now the question is how best to go about approaching it. You know, there are many ways to approach a so-called a problem statement. There are many ways to look at research design, but the question is which would be ideal to achieve the kind of outcomes that they're looking at. So then you decide the approach, and I'll come to the approach in just a short while. But once you determine the approach, whether it's a face-to-face or online, whichever methodology that you're looking at, you go into the design. Again, this is another fun part because there's a lot of iteration between yourself and the client at times. You know, and depending on where you are in the organizational hierarchy, there are some of you who say, hey, Zach, you know what? I don't really enjoy dealing with clients. That's perfectly fine. Right? That's perfectly fine because there is another role for you as well, and you see it in a short while. So we go into the survey design. We then you know, come up with a survey instrument, and ultimately, next step is the actual act of data collection. This is where you know, there was some comments by Edward about field work and stuff like that, right? So there's a lot of field work that's being done and so on. We collect the data, make sure there's this has a lot of quality control in place. You know, the data can withstand its you know, questions about integrity and all of those things. Data is collected, we do our analysis, whether it's Power BI, whether it's Tableau, whether it's any one of those tools that we use, or whether it's your traditional run-of-the-mill way of analyzing Excel spreadsheets and stuff like that. And lastly, it's really about sharing of findings. So what I've just done is I've kind of just given you an overview of how a research project would typically be executed at Beacon Consulting in a very simplified way. Now, the reality is that there are various teams that come into play as far as this project is concerned. So we have the client solutions team that would be the customer-facing one, right? So these are the folks that would be the single point of contact with the client, and they would be also the key person who would deal with other teams back end. We have the operations team that is responsible for data collection, really making sure that the data is collected in the right manner, in a timely manner, and of course in a manner that can withstand any form of scrutiny or any kind. We are able to justify how and the manner in which we've actually collected the data. And then, of course, the third team is your DA team, right? The data analytics team, which they wake up in the morning, they look at spreadsheets, they look at numbers, they look at data sets, and they get very excited about it. Now, you realize that all three teams have a different skill sets that are at play. The client solutions folks theoretically need to be customer-oriented, need to be ones who enjoy dealing with clients, need to be ones who are able to demonstrate assertive skills, need to be also ones that are able to handle objections and handle difficult situations. But at the same time, needs to have at least some knowledge about data analytics so that they are able to engage with the customer in a certain manner. The operations team, while they are doing all the fieldwork, all the data collection, but they need to be aware of how do we go about making sure that the data is collected in the right manner, which theoretically also means that they need to be familiar with, to some extent, the instruments and the tools that we're actually using when we actually go about collecting the data. They also are the liaison between the different teams, their data analytics and the client solutions team. And at times, they may themselves have to collect the so-called the data themselves by doing field work and so on. So again, there's some element of customer orientation because you could be door knocking, you could be picking up the phone and collecting data, or it could be in so many other contexts, right? So it could be something that we do behind the computer, for example, voice analytics or eye tracking tool, right? So we do that. And then, of course, on the right-hand side, you have the data analytics team that basically employs a whole host of software tools, including AI, right, to look at how we go about doing certain things. So again, you realize that the skill sets are very diverse, and just because I mean, sometimes people tend to draw a very simplistic conclusion. Oh, I'm good at numbers, I'm not good at numbers. So if I'm good at numbers, maybe research is the way to go, or something to do with mathematics is something that I should be leaning towards. But it's not really true. You may not be the best in quantitative methods, but yet you can be a great researcher. Why? Because we also have this aspect of what we call qualitative data, right? Qualitative research, which is focus groups and so on. Now, in terms of Beacon Consulting, as I very quickly mentioned, we have a whole bunch of different interventions or solutions that we offer our clients. On the top left, for those of you who are familiar with apps and app design and the Play Store and the so-called the App Store and stuff like that, right? So from UI UX, from conceptualization to implementation and so on, we have them, which also means that theoretically, I mean, you don't need to run SPSS outputs to facilitate that session, but you can still do research in a different way. Right in the middle is our focus group, right? So where we have interesting topics like table littering. So some of you will be familiar where an NEA officer would come back to you and say, hey, brother, you're supposed to remove that tray, from after you've consumed the meal. It's in a focus group. When we talk about moms and parenting resources, we look at the presidential election survey. We look at SG50 Jubilee baby gift. I mean, all of these projects that you hear about and you read about in the papers are all in this focus group room that we have people coming together discussing about certain things. On the right-hand side, you notice that we have the door-to-door survey. So if you have people knocking on your door to say, hi, my name is so-and-so, I'm representing MND to conduct this municipal services survey, right? Or you have people coming to you to asking you about the hawker perception, about hawker centers and so on. These are folks out there knocking on doors to conduct surveys, to ask you about your views and perception. Right? The bottom left is a phone survey. So you have people calling you about defense-related matters. You have people calling you a whole bunch of different topics, right? So you have the call center. So you realize that it's so diverse in terms of research, and the sky's the limit. So sometimes you would hear people saying, oh, will AI take over my job? The reality is that I think AI is going to make your job easier, And where you come in is really about the value adding, you know, the so-called the pluses, all the add-ons, right? Because there are many things that AI can do for you. There are a lot of things that AI can, and I just love the you know the amazing things that can be done by AI. But the aspect that AI cannot do is the value adding part, and that can only come through experience, right? So I feel that the faster you get on board the MR journey, I think the better off you are going to be. It's going to be a landscape where a lot of things are automated, but I feel that a lot of things cannot be automated as well, right? Especially in market research. Lastly, in terms of a future with us, in Beacon Consulting, we have quite a lot of different positions available. You know, for some of them, for some of our folks who join us that have little or no experience, fresh grads and things like that, they would tend to join us as research assistants or research execs. As they progress up, you know, through the organizational hierarchy, they join. I mean, they are promoted to research execs, senior research execs, and research analysts. As they go on, they then become a senior research analyst, deputy HOD, and of course, director. You know, so that's really the career path. So a lot of opportunities to grow within the organization. I wouldn't say that we are a boutique research organization, and I don't think we are in the leagues of an MNC that has presence around the world. I think we are somewhere in between, a homegrown research organization that gives the big boys a run for the money. That's where we are at right now. Okay. The last thing I'd like to share is, of course, in terms of the work culture. You know, sometimes you ask yourself, what kind of organization am I joining? For Beacon Consulting, one of the things that we are very mindful of, and both my business partner and I have made special effort, is this whole notion of family. Family is important to us. We started off our career in this business not as a research company, it was a training organization. And as a training organization, the reason that we are trainers and the reason that we went into this industry is because we believe that we can touch the life of others. Taking that and extrapolating that into the research so-called arena, yeah, just because we are trainers, we did that, but doesn't mean that because we are researchers, we don't do that. So as far as what you see in these pictures are all things that we have done in the last 12 months, right? So Beacon Consulting has been doing all of these things. So once in a month, in our busy schedule, once in a month, at least for half a day, the entire team is outdoors. We are doing something, right? We are doing some team building activities. So imagine in a month that has 20 working days, half of that day is taken out for team building. And the most recent one that we just did a few days ago was a walk for National Day, which is coming up next month, right? So we kind of did a National Day walk for Singapore itself, right? So that's and that kind of you know, is driven by our purpose of inspiring people and organization to create a better tomorrow beyond commercial success. So you see, when you sometimes visualize market research, you sometimes visualize research or people who are in research, somehow the stereotypical image of people sitting in front of a computer, bogged down with lots of numbers, spreadsheet, maybe have an extended monitor and stuff, but it doesn't mean that you can't have fun. It doesn't mean that you know, you can't wake up in the morning and look forward to work and say, you know what, I enjoy going to work. I enjoy working with my team and teams. You know, I enjoy looking at so many different projects, and I enjoy looking at the finished product that is ultimately published in the newspapers and saying, you know what, I played a part in that journey itself. You know, so to me, that's a greater satisfaction knowing that when you receive a letter from CPF or when you receive, you know, some survey, you know, you can be proud to say that, you know what, you were one of them who made this possible for Singaporeans to share their views about some things. You know, so that's a beautiful part you know, of this business stuff. Lastly, sorry, I keep saying lastly, so this is my last slide, promise. Okay. For Beacon Consulting, you know, our relationship with RP goes back a long way. You know, back in those days when RP was not even located where they are currently located. Our journey with RP started off in Tangling, you know, when they had a few hundred staff. Right? That's how far back. And of course, we love working with RP. We've always enjoyed working with RP, and even as we speak, we have a research project with RP, right? So that's our relationship with RP. So you know, when we had this discussion, on our part, we are ready to offer full or partial scholarship to selected individuals. Now, why do I say selected individuals? Because we also need to look at your background, your experience, and at the same time, you know, where are you at? I mean, some of you may have done certain things which may potentially contribute to the work that you may be potentially wanting to do in Beacon, but some of you may be doing things or may have done things that are totally and absolutely non-relevant. Perfectly fine. You know, if you look at me, you know, my career kind of took a lot of twists and turns before I ended up in research. You could be one of, you know, you could be exactly like me, right? So on our part, what we'll do is we'll kind of work with you to look at your salary and look at, you know, where you've been and what you've done, and kind of work with you to say, well, this is the package that we can actually offer you. Okay. This is something that we are also looking at, you know, which is in terms of a bond, in terms of the duration, we'll work it out with you. I mean, Seok and I had this conversation about, you know, the so-called the quantum and the dollar and stuff like that. And the reality is that, you know, it's not a lot of money that you have to pay based on the net fee and so on. So obviously, you know, we don't want to kind of impose that as well, but we will kind of work out a package because it needs to be a win-win for both as well. And lastly, you know, if you are keen, then perhaps what you can do is to write into this email address, recruitment@beacon.com.sg, and in the subject of the email, you can just put SCTP-MR. And what we will do is, of course, we'll be mindful that you are actually applying based on this seminar and based on this course that you've actually signed up for. I like to say that looking at the various modules and looking at the so-called the bundle deal that RP has put together for you, I think it looks like a very attractive package, looks like a very attractive program, crash course, learn as quickly as you can and bring you up to speed. And with that, you're armed to basically take on you know, the MR world, you know, with open arms, right? So I'd like to just end off by saying that you know, it's a great industry. I have no regrets. I've been in this industry for 25 years. You know, it is a business, or is the type of work that I mean, based on the type of work that I do, I wake up every morning very excited. I wake up every morning looking forward to projects which I've never had exposure to, even after 25 years. You know, I have meetings with clients that you know, have certain requests or certain requirements for which it gets me to start scratching my head. But the reality is that when I look back at the finished product, there's a lot of satisfaction, a tremendous amount of satisfaction, because you see a lot of completed projects within a year. And some of them are, of course, national level itself. You know? So it's really something that gets me up in the morning and really gets me excited of you know, for the workday itself. Okay, so I'd like to just stop here and pass the time back to Seok Ling, and you know, I'm happy to also take any questions if any of you have any questions or clarifications as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Zach and Edward, for this very enlightening sharing session.